In this demo, we want to implement a way to set automatically properties with the values from a properties file. So let's create a demo project in which I will just create a demo package. Okay, so basically imagine that I have a property file and I have wrapper class on top of it. For instance, I have my properties, which is my descriptor for the bundle, and in here I have a file with the same name, my properties.properties. Okay, so imagine that I have some properties, like for instance I have a string first name. I won't use the final in order to define those properties, because not just because I will set the value of the property automatically, but also because of the way the static blocks are evaluated when loading a class. So for now, let's say that I have those properties, and I will just define an integer one to be able to show that we are passing different kind of values. And let's say I have a property called age, and I want to be able to set the values from the keys in my properties file. Let's say first name Julian, last name, and the value for age. Okay, nothing fancy up to now. Usually I will load my resource bundle and I will ask to get the values of the key accordingly. But what I would like to have is a utility class, call it, let's say, properties, and this class will help me get the values of the keys from the file. And I will define here a protected static method that will return void, and I will call it initialize. Okay, and let's say that my properties class is extending the properties class. What I want to be able to do here is to have a static block which will call the initialize method that I'm inheriting from properties class. Okay, I'm expecting that this method will set all the keys with the values from the properties file. So in here, what I would like to get, first of all, I would like to know who invoked my initialize method, because as you can see here, I'm not sending any information about the caller. I'm just calling the initialize method, and I would like by this to have those keys set. So what I have to do here, first of all, is to discover who invoked my initialize method, and I will get the type of the class who invoked my method by calling an utility getType method. Let's focus on implementing this one. What I'm supposed to do in here is try to see what is the method that invoked my initialized method. And eventually, in the beginning, I will say that I'm looking to see who invoked the method called initialize from the type with this name. And I also know that the name of the method is initialize. Okay, so I can, by calling the current thread, I can get the stack trace of the invocation. So this will return a stack trace element stack trace. Sorry, this will return a stack trace element array. Let's call it stack trace elements. Okay, so the idea is with these stack trace elements, the first item in the array will be actually the initialize call, and of course it was invoked by the properties class because initialize method belongs to the class. So what I want to do here is to get the outer color of my method. Suppose initialize could be invoked by internal methods of properties, one of which is available to its descendants. So I don't care about the logic of calling, I only need to know which is the external class that invoked my initialize method through a set of internal methods. So I will iterate through all the methods, that means through all the stack, and I'm checking if the type, which is properties type, equals to the corresponding element in the stack trace, get class name, and I also want that the method name equals with the name of the method that's in the stack trace, get method name. Okay, so if so, then I found the call on the stack trace of my method. I will go one step further and check if the next element in the stack trace doesn't belong to my properties file, to my properties class. Sorry. So I will try to see if the type of the next, if my type equals the type of the next element in the sequence, which is the next element get class name. Okay, and if so, this means it's an internal call. I'm still inside an internal call. So instead of trying to see who invoked method initialized, I will have to see who invoked the method inside my properties class that was invoking my initialized method. So what I'm trying to achieve here is to get the outer color of my initialized method, which is from outside the properties class. Okay, so then I will say look for the method with the name of this guy. So the next element, I will get the method name from the element. Otherwise, if the method that invoked my current initialized method, that's currently on the stack, it's outside the class, I don't have to go further with the search. I will just try to, sorry, I commented it by mistake. I will just ask class for name, given the name of the next element in the stack trace, and from that element I will get the name of the type, and that's it. Okay, this might throw an exception, class not found exception. Eventually, if I didn't found any element here, I will have to return null. When initializing the type, I don't care about the error, so I will surround with try catch block. I will just use a generic exception here, and I will not trace the exception. Okay, so this is the first step. First of all, I got the name of the type who invoked my initialize method. In this case, it will be my properties class. I use this as a reference to get the properties file with the appropriate name. So next step will be to have a resource bundle let's call it bundle, and I will call resource bundle get bundle, and for the name I will use the name of the type. That's the long name, canonical name. Okay, now I have the bundle, I have access to the keys, and I want to see all the fields that need to be set from my type, the one that invoked me, to initialize the properties. I would like to go there and see what's the value of the key. If it's available in the resource bundle, then parse it to the appropriate type. So next, I will iterate through all the fields, not float, but field. Okay, and for that I will say type get declared fields. I can use get fields as well because I don't want to initialize fields which are not visible as a contract of the class, but that's another story. First, I will get the modifiers with the field by calling, with field get modifiers. And if the modifier is public, if it's not public or it's not static, okay, then I will continue. Makes no sense to look for a field if it's not public and static. It's not a key, that should be a property. I also should check if my bundle doesn't contain the key with the name of the field. If in case it doesn't, then I don't need to go further. Next, I will get the value. Let's call it text. Okay, and I will just ask my bundle to get this, the string by the name of the field. So field get name. Okay, and now if the text is null, I don't have to care about setting the value, so I'll just continue. Otherwise, the idea would be to parse the value and make the field accessible, then set the value of the field. So I will have to parse the value. Let's have a method to do that, parse value, which will get the text of the field and the type of the field. And then let's create this method. Then see if the field is accessible. So field is accessible. If it's not accessible, make it accessible by setting the accessible property. So field set accessible true. In the end, if it wasn't accessible, let it as it was. So okay. In between, I just want to set the value of the field by calling field set with null because it's static. It doesn't need an instance to set the context, and with the appropriate parsed value. And that's about all what I have to do here. Let's do the parse method and then test it. When I'm parsing, first of all, if my value is null, if my this will parse a text. So if text is null or type is null, I will return null. Otherwise, let's continue. Else, it doesn't need to be an else, but anyway. If it's a string, so if string.class equals type on which to which I need to parse, I will just return the value because it's already a string. Otherwise, it's not a value, sorry, it's a text. Otherwise, if I have to parse to a character, so this equals my type, then I will just get the text and return its first character. Should be only one. Otherwise, if it's a date from Java util, then let's suppose we have date as a simple format. I will just return a date format .get date instance of type date format short, and then parse my text. Okay, I'm collecting a bunch of exceptions that can be thrown by this. You know what? Let me say I'm throwing exception. I don't care what list can have here. Otherwise, if it's not one of those, then I will try to see if it's a value type and try to parse the value from the text to that value type. So I'll just have to create here an array of classes. Let's call it value types. I will create an array of class types, and in here I will put all the primitive types, the wrappers of those, like boolean class, like short class, like byte class, short class, integer class, long class, float class, and of course double class. Okay, so I'd like to go through all those types one at a time. Value type inside value types. So if it's one of the type in here, that means that the value type equals my target type. But I also, you know that for primitive types like int, short, and so on, the wrappers are not equals to the primitive type class. So I will check also if the value type contains a declared field with the name type that's corresponding to the wrapper, and if I get the value of this with no context, this equals, sorry, I would like to get the field and get the value of that type, and if this equals my type, then it is a wrapper typing with this condition or a primitive type with this one. If it's so, I will just need to set the name of the parse method to be value type get simple name, but for int, you know, it's not parse integer, it's parse int. So I will have to check that if integer.class equals my value type, okay, and if so, I will just say int, otherwise I will get the simple name of the class. So what I do here, I'm composing the name of the parse method to be starting with parse. I will have to, with the character to uppercase, I will have to make the name Pascal case. So convert to uppercase, name character at 0, and then I will continue with name substring of 1. So this will translate into parse int, parse long, parse float, parse short, and so on. And now I will have to look to get the method with that name. So from the value type, I will get the declared method, get declared method with the name that I was setting, and one parameter of type string, one class parameter of type string to parse the other. And I will return the result of invoking this method with no object instance because it is a static method, and with an object array with the only value that's the text. Otherwise, if I am not able to find any primitive type that equals with the target type, I will return null, but this shouldn't happen because usually I will have to define keys in here that's one of the primitive types. So I only support boolean, byte, short, integer, long, float, double, and character, also date, the Java util date. So this is an utility class that's just able to parse values. So I have a pass exception that's imported for nothing. This is my class. Let's create a demo console to show the feature. Okay, so what I would like to have here will just be outputting with system out print line properties like first name. I will just copy this in here, last name, and of course my age. Okay, so as you can see, my properties wrapper, it's extending the properties class. It has a static block to initialize the keys, and by using the initialize feature from the properties class, it will first try to discover who invoked initialize method. It will discover this type. It will look for a file, a properties file with the name of the class in the same structure, because I'm loading a bundle from that position. And it will look through all the keys, all the fields that are defined in my class, and try to see if there is a key for that name of the field. Get the value, try to parse the value according to the type of the field, and in the end we'll set the value of the field. Okay, let's try to see if it works. Okay, and as you can see here, the values are read from the file and I'm able to access them. Another approach would be to make the keys in here, the fields, final. The problem with making them final won't be to access and set their values at runtime. That's not an issue. I will show that in a later demo. But the problem is that if I have a class with only final fields, then the static block won't be called anymore because there is nothing to be initialized. All the values are set when you load the class. You don't have to do specific initialization on that. So if I will turn the type of the field to be final, then I won't get this block invoked anymore. So my initialize, which is actually doing some logic to set the value, it won't be called anymore. So be careful with that. That's about all. Thank you for watching this demo.